Welcome to the Smoke Pit. Now, I know that you came here for entertainment, but as this is a new feature for the channel, before I begin, I would like to answer a few questions that you might have while you listen to the stories shared here, and those in future episodes. What are Smoke Pit stories? Where do these stories come from, and how can I share my own? And how do we know these stories are true? After this video, this introduction will not be included in each consecutive episode, but will be linked as a separate video for the sake of any newcomers. I simply want to manage your possible expectations and establish the guidelines for these particular episodes moving forward. So, what are smoke pit stories? A smoke pit is something of a military term, and smoke pits come in many forms, but the gist remains the same. It does not discriminate against either active duty service members, veterans, or civilians. It is a place for warfighters from all walks of life to gather, to unwind, and to swap stories. As I work to produce each next primary episode, which unfortunately takes some time due to the extensive amount of work required for the writing, audio, and animations, rather than keep you waiting in silence for several weeks between episodes, I can only hope these short stories, which take far less time to create, offer some amount of supplemental entertainment. Where do these stories come from? The stories herein are those shared by fellow viewers from around the world, like yourself. Those stories brought to mind while they listened to stories on the channel, and then either emailed them to me or posted them in the comment section. If I miss seeing your comment or it does not appear in the most recent Smoke Pit episode, I might be saving it for a future video, or perhaps it was too general and did not include enough detail. You are certainly encouraged to repost your story in the comments of a future video, or email it to me if you feel like it might have been overlooked. Lastly, and most importantly, due to the often unusual nature of the stories in these episodes, I understand that much of the intrigue of listening to these stories comes from the assertion that they are true. So, how do we know that these stories are true? I consider the truth to be invaluable, yes. Unless otherwise indicated, all of the stories presented on Wartime Stories are true to the best of my knowledge, even the recent Fort Campbell stories. I assure you, it is not my intention to fool anyone into believing anything. There is more than enough of that in the world already. Admittedly, as the Kitsune episode is so far the only fictional story presented on the channel, I did a poor job of conveying that it was always meant to be a fictional story, or rather a hypothetical situation which combined real wartime events on Okinawa during the Vietnam War, along with real Japanese superstitions that date back hundreds, if not thousands of years. So again, from this point, I will make it clear in the episode itself if a story is known to be a work of fiction. There will likely be few, if any, as there are plenty of true stories left to tell, but I would hate to limit myself because a lot of people enjoy the Kitsune story, and who knows what might come along in future. However, for these smoke pit stories, it should be obvious that these sorts of individual accounts shared by viewers are very difficult, if not impossible, for me to verify. So, either I can take my viewers at their word and share their story, or not. And who am I to say that the tree didn't make a sound simply because I wasn't there to hear it fall? Of course, it should also be obvious that I do not want anyone submitting a fabricated story and presenting it as being true. But I can't stop that from happening, and if it does, well, I suppose that person will just have to live with the guilt of knowing the truth. And ultimately, whether you find these stories incredibly fantastic or not, no one can ever take away your freedom to think for yourself, to choose what you are willing to believe is possible. This channel was not created to ridicule others for sharing their experiences. We tell stories here. As for me, in spite of my own skepticism, I am inclined to believe that the world is far more mysterious than we give it credit for. Welcome to the Smoke Pit.